How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Dragon's Den, and today we have some very big news. So, the Commander Rules Committee made a banned and restricted announcement today, banning 4 cards in the Commander format. So we're going to talk about what these cards are and how this is going to affect the format. So, the first card that we're going to talk about is Mana Crypt. They finally banned Mana Crypt. In my opinion, it probably should have been banned sooner than this. It is extremely mana positive, costing you 0 to give you 2 mana every turn. So you can be on 3 mana, turn 1, 3 usable mana, turn 1, which is absolutely crazy. It leads to insane early game explosiveness that's going to put you just way ahead of everybody else. The only reason it probably wasn't banned sooner is because if you look at the percentage of decks that it's actually in, the percentage is actually rather low, but that's because Mana Crypt is a $200 card. Most of your casual Commander players don't have $200 to spend on a Mana Rock. But for those of us that do, or for the people that have, or the people that had one from back in the day when it was cheaper or something like that, anytime they draw it gives them essentially a 2-turn advantage over everybody else at the table. Now, a lot of people that say Mana Crypt should be banned also say that Sol Ring should be banned. And I can tell you right now, Sol Ring is not one of the cards that got banned. Matter of fact, the Commander Rules Committee has openly said they have no intention or desire to ban Sol Ring whatsoever, which, in my opinion, is not a bad thing. I get that Sol Ring is also mana positive and that it can lead to explosive things and whatnot, but also Sol Ring is printed in every single Commander precon that there is, and you can pick up a Sol Ring for like $2 or $3. It's easily accessible to anybody and everybody, so I don't see Sol Ring as problematic as Mana Crypt. Now, we can talk about the 3 life you may or may not lose to Mana Crypt on your upkeep, being like, oh, that's supposed to be the downside that balances it out. But let's be honest here, you have a 50-50 shot of even taking the damage. And in Commander, where you have 40 life, 3 damage isn't that big of a price to pay, assuming you even have to pay it. You know, if you got a Mana Crypt and it's going to explode, like give you an explosive, start where you're going to win on turn, 5 or 6, Mana Crypt may only hit you twice during that whole time, and you paid 6 life to get that far ahead. So I completely understand why Mana Crypt was banned. I think it was a good banning. Let's get to the next card. Dockside Extortionist. Dockside Extortionist can also be very mana positive very quickly. It can lead to some extremely explosive turns. Dockside is... I've always seen Dockside Extortionist as a 50-50 card as to whether or not it should be banned. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, it doesn't need it because, it's a one-time effect and everything, which is true if you don't create a copy or flicker it or reanimate it or something like that. But there's also the fact that the vast majority of mana ramp is mana rocks, and it's become a much faster format, so now most of your mana rocks are 2 mana. 2 mana rocks have kind of become the way the format has went. So you look at a standard table of 4, and all of your opponents play their mana rocks on 2, and then, you have your artifacts 2, then you play Dockside Extortionist. Now you're going to get a bunch of treasures on turn 3, you're going to get treasures for all the artifacts your opponents have cast, and then you're going to have your own mana ramp as well, and again, it can create you an extremely explosive turn as early as turn 2 when playing against other things, like if somebody has Sol Ring and a Signet, or Lightning Greaves and Boots and things like that. There's a lot of 1 and 2 drop artifacts that get played in Commander, so it's not out of the realm of possibility to drop Dockside Extortionist on turn 2 and get 4 or 5 treasures for it. You know, I've seen it always being extremely explosive, and I've always made the argument that if they weren't going to ban Dockside Extortionist, they need to unban Primeval Titan, and I am still of the opinion that they need to unban Primeval Titan. I understand there's some goofy combos you can do, but at the same time, removal and interaction has gotten better and better and better over the years. So, you know, unban Primetime, please. But yeah, Dockside Extortionist, I was 50-50 on it. They finally pulled the trigger on it. You know, I could have took it or, you know, left it. So, I think it's an okay banning, but definitely not something I'm unhappy about. Next is Nadu Winged Wisdom. I'm honestly kind of surprised that they finally did it. They launched the bird out of a cannon and said, "You're not welcome here anymore." Nadu has been banned in Modern already, and I believe, I don't know if it got restricted in Vintage and banned in Legacy. I'm not sure. You know, I don't keep up with it too much, those the other 60 card constructed formats, but it's been something that's been heavily banned in other formats and things like that, so I completely see it. And their reasoning for banning Nadu is if you're somebody who plays Nadu, it leads to, its typical win condition is it leads to long, undeterministic turns where you could be going for the win and you completely fizzle out. Because a lot of times it's, you know, having something like a Shuko or a Lightning Greaves in Commander or something, and having landfall creatures out and bouncing your boots to the new creatures over and over again and just digging through your deck and everything else, you know. But if you hit a great big, you know, land drought or whatever, you can completely fizzle out, and you actually have to play Nadu's you know, synergies out, because that's the thing. It's really just synergies. It's not actually an infinite combo or anything, so it's not something that can be shortcut. So it leads to really, really long turns. And even just in general, if you're not going for the win, if you only have like 2, 3, or 4 creatures or something, and you're still bouncing it around, resolving a bunch of triggers and stuff, it still leads for the Nadu player to have extremely long turns, even if it, you know, it doesn't actually really, really help progress them a whole lot. So I definitely think that this is an okay ban. I think it's something that's going to affect the casual scene as well, because Nadu is a card that I could see being played. You know, it's probably seeing some casual play and everything, as it's a relatively cheap card. Last time I looked at it, it was only like $4. So it's very affordable, something that people could easily pick up and things like that. So, you know, to see long turns get pushed kind of out of the casual format, I do think is a good thing. So I'm not too upset about the Nadu banning at all. The last card in the banning that people should be upset about is Jeweled Lotus. So Jeweled Lotus being banned, I think, is a very, very, very bad decision on the part of Wizards. And, well, I guess it's not Wizards, it's the Rules Committee. But to allow it. So, Jeweled Lotus, as you can see, it's a 0-drop artifact, and you can sacrifice it and add 3 mana of any one color, spend this mana only to cast your commander. Again, it can lead to some very explosive early game turns. It can ramp your command. Like, if you have a 3 mana monocolored commander, you can ramp it out on turn 1 with an extra mana to use. If you have a 4 color, or if you have a 4 mana commander, you can still play your commander on turn 1. If you have a 5 mana commander, you can play your commander on turn 2. And, you know, that's really, those are the ones that you're really going to see it hit, because, you know, those are some higher cost commanders, especially there at the end. Being able to cast a 5-drop on turn 2 is extremely powerful. But see, here's the problem with this banning. This card has only been in commander-specific sets and is only legal and playable in Commander. It can't be played in any 60-card formats because there is no commanders in 60 card format. So it's literally only playable in Commander, and now it's banned in Commander. So it was designed with one format in particular in mind, and then they banned it out of that format. So if you have a Jeweled Lotus, there is nowhere where you can legally play this card. It is now only playable in friendly, no ban list, Rule 0 Commander pods. And if you're in a Commander group like mine, my particular play group, you might as well say they live and die by the ban list. They don't allow people to unban or ban cards with Rule 0. So if your people are like that, or if you're playing in the competitive scene or anything like that, Jeweled Lotus being banned out of the format it was specifically designed for creates a completely useless card. And when this card was being designed, they should have known that it was going to be problematic. It's obvious what it does. You know, there's no two ways around it. You can't say, oh, well, I didn't think it was going to be that powerful. You could have seen the numbers from the very start. Oh, this could give somebody 3 extra mana on turn 1 and ramp them into their 4 mana commander on turn 1. It's not like this was some sort of hidden kind of thing, you know, like it's not like it snuck up on them. When this card was designed years ago, they knew this was going to be a thing. And now they decided to ban it now because they said it's too explosive in the early game, allowing people to cast bigger commanders too early in the game. Well, I don't think they ever should have done it. Like, if you designed this card, if you play tested it at all, which, knowing what we know now, that's a 50-50 kind of thing, then you should have known how good it was going to be. And it should have never stood a chance of being banned. Ever. If you specifically designed it for Commander, it should have never been banned out of Commander. If you thought it was at all possible that it was going to be banned, you should have never printed the card. Because where this is going to create issues is now everybody who just bought one, well, now they're going to be pissed because they just dropped over $100 on a card that they can't even use now. For the people who invested in them and collected a bunch of them, hoping to flip them later on, that just really, really hit what they had. Because while this card isn't on the reserve list or anything, it was a pretty safe investment because it's seen, I think, 2 printings now, maybe even 3, and the value still hasn't dropped. Because it's such a good card in Commander that it's always going to be really desirable, and it's only getting a few prints. Like, it's not like it's being printed in every precon like Sol Ring is. So that's where it becomes very problematic for me, because it seems like a really scummy business practice in a sense to release a card for a format that you know could be banned in the only format it's legal in. And I wonder if when they designed this card, if they consulted any of the people on the rules committee at all. I realized that this card released a few years ago and it just now got banned, so it got a few years in the format. But if they'd at least addressed the rules committee with this card, showed it to them and said, hey, this is something we're thinking about releasing, do y'all think it would be problematic, and just got their feedback on it, they may not have ever released it in the first place. Because now for those people who have sealed product of like Commander Legends and things like that, well, now the price of that sealed is about to drop a whole lot, because this is the big chase card in those sets. This is the card that makes you want to buy those packs or buy those boxes, because you want to open up all these packs and you want to try to get the big fancy cool Jeweled Lotus. You know? So now all the sealed product that has a Jeweled Lotus in it just went down in value as well. On top of the card is going to tank in value. It was well over $100 the last time I saw it, just because it is still a Lotus, and the Lotus kind of thing has always been kind of iconic in Magic. I give it a month, and unless they for some reason just emergency unban this card, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of backlash over it, this might be $10 or $15 just because it's a Lotus. If even that, it may completely bottom out, but it's still relatively rare, and it's a Lotus. So I'd say, yeah, maybe 10, 15, 20 bucks at most by the time it's all said and done. So the value on this card is about to completely tank, along with any of the sealed product that it's in. And that's just something I don't think Wizards should have allowed, and something the rules committee should have kept in mind is why ban a card that is only legal in Commander. So I may have been spinning my wheels a little bit here, but I mean, it does kind of drive me crazy, because if they've done this once already, what's to stop them from doing it again? From creating another card that comes out in a, let's say, a Commander Precon, you know, an original print in a Commander Precon, or they come out with another Commander Legends set and they put some new cards in that and everything else specifically designed for Commander, and then a little bit later on they're like, oh, now that everybody's bought all our sealed product and spent all their money buying this card and everything else, let's go ahead and ban it and make it useless. Because that's what it is. It's useless. You heard me bring up Primeval Titan earlier and how it's banned, and I wish it was unbanned, and I think it should be unbanned. But even though it's banned in Commander, it can still be played in Modern, Legacy, Vintage. I don't know if it can be played in Pioneer or not. I don't know what set it was most recently set. I don't know the parameters of Pioneer. But it may even be legal in Pioneer. So it's legal in all these 60-card constructed formats. So if you were somebody who had some Primeval Titans, and then Primeval Titan got banned in Commander, at least then your card didn't become useless. Well, that's not the case here. You have this card, it has become completely useless. Cannot be played in any format. And that is a waste of a Magic card. It might as well not even exist, because you can't use it. It will forever sit in a binder. And it probably won't even be that collectible, because it can't see play. And it's not on the reserve list. So unless they ever put it on the reserve list, it's never going to go up in value, really. It's never going to be very collectible unless it gets put on the reserve list. But honestly, I don't think they're going to add any more cards to the reserve list. So I don't know how to make heads or tails of this. It's something that's definitely frustrating. I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it, that it creates the explosive turns, but they knew that when they designed the card. They knew that when they released the card. They've known that for the last 3 years, and they finally decided to ban it. And it's frustrating because of the situation that it's in. If it was a card that could be played in other formats, then oh well. But the fact that you ban the Commander-only card in Commander, that's extremely frustrating, and I think a terrible move. So this is our updated ban and restricted announcement. So let me know what you guys think down below, and tell me what you think about all this, because honestly, I think casual groups aren't going to be too affected. And this is another thing that I think is going to frustrate people, that casual groups aren't going to be affected too much. Because while Nadu was real cheap, and maybe there were some casual Nadu decks and everything else, Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt, Dockside Extortionists were all very expensive cards. So I'm going to say like probably 90% of the Commander player base can't actually just afford to buy those cards because they're so expensive. I know I can't afford to buy them. That's why I don't have any of them. So most of your casual Commander players are not going to be too affected by any of these bans, really. The community that's really, really going to be affected by these bans is CEDH. CEDH players, I feel like this is a complete gut punch. I'm not super familiar with CEDH. I've been around it a little bit. I've seen some of it a little bit. And I know things like Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, Dockside. And they were all, Jeweled Lotus and Mana Crypt in particular, they went in like every single CEDH deck out there. And Dockside went in every single CEDH deck that ran red. They were completely staples at that level of play. And Nadu became a very, very popular commander for CEDH. lots of people started running Nadu as their commander in CDH and built decks around Nadu and everything else just for it to get banned out from under them. So if I was somebody who was just getting into CDH and I picked up a Nadu and I spent all this money and I built this really awesome deck around it and everything else just for the piece that makes the deck tick to get banned right afterwards, because a lot of these really expensive cards, it would leave a very, very, very sour taste in my mouth if I dropped that kind of money to build a CDH deck and then all the key pieces, including the commander, got banned out of it. So CDH got hit really, really, really hard. And I think it's people hyper-optimizing and creating the CDH format and showing how efficient and powerful all these cards can be might even be the reason that they got pushed over the limit to the point where they got banned. But CDH, it was a total gut punch. Jeweled Lotus was a total gut punch to anybody, every commander player, really. So, all in all, I'd say there was one good ban, one 50-50 ban, and I'm going to say two 50-50 bans. I'm not, Nadu is probably 50-50, Dockside is 50-50, Mana Crypt, good ban, Jeweled Lotus, terrible ban. So I'd say all in all, it's a very mixed bag when it comes to this ban and restricted announcement. So, with that being said, I think I'm going to end it here. I think I've ranted enough. Like I said, let me know what y'all think down below about these bannings and everything else, and how you were affected by it. So, I'll catch y'all next time.